Ready, set, hut, hut!
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sound of gold and blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50 to 10 to 5. A touchdown, West Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tavon Austin.
The Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels fear to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth.
It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
Leave no doubt tonight. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night. They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the gold and blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads webcast. We're providing you West Virginia sports content from Mountaineer fans for Mountaineer fans. Here for another WVU basketball portal update that's going to also coincide with a little football practice update stream as well. West Virginia had their penultimate practice yesterday. Of course, you know, the final one being the spring game, spring festival, whatever you want to call it, coming up on Saturday. So got some notes from the press conference from special teams coach Pat Kirkland. Got some ideas of who could potentially be return men this year from that, and then got some good notes from, you know, Coach Rich Rodriguez on the practice session, and of course some details on Saturday's spring game for us as well, which we'll talk more about here over the next couple of days. But we'll lead it off with the WVU basketball portal update first here momentarily, as we have a new portal entry for West Virginia. We have a couple of new targets to add to the target list, and we have the official signing of Finley Bizjack that's been released by the university we can talk about as well. So multiple things we'll dive into here on this live stream. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one, whether you're watching live or on a playback. Either way there, you can help out with the thumbs up button. Giving this video that like helps it hit the YouTube algorithm so to find other Mountaineer fans like you and me. And make sure you're subscribed here to the channel for future WVU basketball portal updates as we continue to cover it all throughout this portal cycle. And of course, talk WVU football here throughout the spring on these live streams. Usually put WVU News Daily, covering all WVU sports out every Monday through Friday. Didn't get to put one out today. The first time, I think, since I started doing the show in January that I've missed a weekday, I do believe. So, you know, 4 months in, that's pretty good hit rate on those. So pretty much every weekday you can get some content on every WVU sport here on the channel, in addition to basketball and football on these live streams. Me and the wife had to babysit the nephews this morning, and then I've got to go play a basketball game this evening in this adult church league that I'm playing in this year. So that's why I wanted to squeeze this live stream in between those two things. You know, didn't get a chance to do WVU News Daily, but did want to come on here, talk about this transfer portal news, talk about this WVU football news. So with no further ado, let's dive right in, leading off with the WVU basketball portal news. Let's go here with the entry first. And then we got a guy to remove from our portal list and a couple of targets to add as well. And then I want to read through the university's announcement of the signing of Finley Bizjack. So the portal entry for West Virginia is unfortunately Jackson Fields. And I was looking forward to seeing Jackson Fields play big man with this team this upcoming season. You know, the one that we just witnessed, and of course maybe in the future as well. Thought he would have made a difference on the team. Unfortunately, we know he had those injuries, probably on his way to a medical redshirt, but looks like if he does indeed get that medical redshirt, he's going to try and play that out elsewhere, as he announced he is entering the portal. Sam Kaiser and League Ready sharing this on social media. The 6'8" forward out of Missouri City, Texas, began his career at Troy, which we knew about before being at West Virginia this past season, where he only played in 9 games, averaging 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist in those 9 contests for West Virginia. So that becomes the next name on the transfer out list for West Virginia, which I will pull up here on our transfer tracker momentarily, as soon as I can find the correct tab here. which, of course, I hit the wrong button when I'm pulling it up there. Bear with me, guys. But now you see here 6 names on the transfer out list for West Virginia. Of course, Jasper Floyd has hit the portal, but as I said in previous portal updates here, I'm not going to put him on our transfer out list because we weren't expecting him to have any eligibility left or to potentially to return to West Virginia anyway. So Jackson Fields now joining Evans Barning Jr., Jaden Forsyth, DJ Thomas, Mo Ugasuk, Abraham Oyedir as the transfers out for West Virginia. Jackson Fields, just the latest name to join that list, of course, the transfer out list. And then we have the transfer in list with 3 names thus far. There will be plenty more to join these 3 names, and even one of these that is now officially signed we'll talk about momentarily with Finley Bizjack. But we also have the transfer target list, which we're going to update here as well. So let's do that. Let's remove a name first, as we do have a previous target that we had here in Jameer Jones from Providence, who decided to sign with Missouri. So we're going to remove his name from the transfer tracker, which we'll pull up here, the transfer target list for West Virginia. Take Jameer Jones's name off. Still ton of candidates here, ton of potential players West Virginia could go after and still could add here and become names on that transfer in list, much like, the others that we had on here. All 3 of these others were on our transfer target list initially pretty much, and then ended up choosing West Virginia. So we have a couple of more targets to talk about here, a couple of new additions to the target list down at the bottom there. We'll pull up momentarily. And these are those names. So here's a couple new targets for West Virginia since our last live stream here on the Country Roads webcast, updating the WVU basketball portal activity. We've got Rob Lee Jr. now a target for West Virginia as well. As you see here, Tobias Bass sharing on social media. The Lamar guard, since entering the portal, has heard from the following schools, those being UTEP, Washington, Texas State, TCU, North Dakota State, and of course, West Virginia. So let's pull up some numbers here on Rob Lee Jr. from Lamar. A new addition to the WVU target list momentarily. And we see he's a 6'2", 190-pound guard, 16 points per game, so can definitely score it. 3 rebounds, 2 assists on over 44% from the field while playing there with the Lamar Cardinals. He also shot 40% from three-point range, so that would be a great shooter to add to the roster there. Like this new target for West Virginia, you see in his recent games there, 4 out of the 5, he was in double figures scoring, one of them nearly 67% from the three-point line. So a good scorer here in Rob Lee Jr., and he's not the only guard that we're adding to the target list as well. We have another one here we're going to pull up, as West Virginia also now in the mix, according to the portal report, for a Texas A&M transfer guard in Josh Holloway, who says he's consistently receiving interest from these programs, according to the portal report: USC, Butler, Memphis, Ole Miss, San Diego, and of course, West Virginia. So Josh Holloway, another one we're going to talk about here really quickly. Let's pull up his profile on ESPN, talk a little bit about his numbers. And we have a 6', 180-pound guard, averaged 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, over 50% from the field, though, in his time there at Texas A&M. And I think the consistent with both of these new additions that we're seeing is both guys that shot 40+% from the three-point line. Definitely seems like something West Virginia is looking to add with their final backcourt additions here, seemingly with these couple of names that we're talking about here. And his most recent game was a good one against Houston, actually, where he had 12 points and was 100% from the three-point line. Didn't miss a three-pointer in that game. So a great recent outing for Josh Holloway. So let's pull back up our target list and show these 2 names on there now as well, in Rob Lee Jr. and Josh Holloway down here at the bottom of our transfer list to join some of the recent additions like Colin Smith, Okechukwu Okeke, a bunch of the others that we've talked about on recent updates. And most of these still West Virginia appears to be in the mix for, and unless I've missed sometimes I miss some and they commit elsewhere, and if so, we'll purge the list again on a future update, but always try and keep up with it as much as possible. Need to go back through and search all these names, make sure that none of the other ones here have committed elsewhere, but a decent amount of these still definitely targets for West Virginia that could potentially be transfers in the future. Rob Lee and Josh Holloway, just the latest additions to this list. And guys, we're going to keep our eyes on a lot of these names here as potential transfer targets for West Virginia that we can maybe add to the transfer in list here in the near future. But, the 2 most recent names are 2 that we're very excited about. They made West Virginia's transfer class rankings soar, those being Mo Sela, the center there from Georgia Tech, and, of course, Finley Bizjack, the guard from Butler, a top 50 portal ad for West Virginia. And his signing is now official, as WVU put out the press release earlier today. So let's check out this press release on Finley Bizjack before we move on and talk a little WVU football before we wrap up the show. So Finley Bizjack officially signed here as Hodge announces that signing earlier today. We see Coach Ross Hodge announce the signing to a grant and aid to join the Mountaineers for the upcoming season. He'll be a 6'4", 190-pound senior at West Virginia, of course, from Trophy Club, Texas, coming to West Virginia from the Butler Bulldogs, where he played the last 3 seasons. We get a quote here from Coach Hodge. "We are excited to have Finley Bizjack join our basketball program," Coach Hodge says. "Finley is a unique playmaker who can score and get others involved. Mountaineer fans are going to love watching the passion he plays with every night." And I'd agree with that from the tape that we've seen here on him, and how excited we were when we picked him up. Some numbers here this past season. He was named to the All Big East 3rd team, leading Butler in scoring at over 17 points per game, and already is a 1,000-point scorer as he crossed that mark in the game against DePaul in his 97th career game. He matched his career high with 30 points at Providence this season, and also had another 30 points against Boise State in the college basketball crown tournament. He was named Big East Player of the Week on January 26th after he scored 28 against Marquette and 24 against DePaul. So right there, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4 20-plus point games, 2 of them over 30. So you see a little bit of the scoring capability there, as he scored double figures in 48 games and has 12 20-point games. He had 29 points against Eastern Michigan, 26 points against Providence, and 25 points in the Greenbrier tip-off win over Virginia. For his career, he's had over 98 games played, starting in 61 of them, and impressive numbers there, nearly 43% from the field, over 36% from 3, and an 81% free throw shooter. Also has nearly 200 assists in his career as well. So really excited about this addition for West Virginia, now official with the signing of Finley Bizjack, who will be a senior guard for the Mountaineers now this upcoming season. And that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to hit on there basketball-wise. Let's transition over to the other side here, talk a little West Virginia football, as we got notes from Pat Kirkland, the special teams coordinator's press conference. We got notes from Rich Rod's press conference. We'll hit on and talk about some fun things as we get close to wrapping up spring football. Hard to believe that was the final practice on Wednesday, not including the spring game on Saturday, which will be the culmination of the spring, of course. But hard to believe, man. Been a lot of fun covering it throughout the spring football season, and just can't wait to the fall to get back and be able to cover it some more. And we'll have plenty to talk to in the lead up to that fall, though, because a lot of competition's ongoing on the roster, which we'll talk about here momentarily. And then once I get done with my notes on the football side of things, I'll get some of your all's comments there in the chat. Appreciate you guys tuning in here live in the live chat. If you didn't get a chance to tune in live, you can share some thoughts there in the comment section. But if you are there, continue to drop those in there. I'm not neglecting you guys. I'll get to them here before we wrap up, rest assured. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about special teams coach Pat Kirkland's press conference first, as he said he thinks the competition for the kicking job will likely last into the fall, as they have 3 guys really competing for that job. You've got the returner in Nate Flower. I think he's got a good chance to be maybe the kickoff specialist as well. It sounds like he's in competition for that, in addition to the place kicking duties. And then you have the 2 transfers there, Peter Notaro from Alabama, who transferred in, and Jack Cassidy, the 6'6" kicker from Western Kentucky. All 3 of those continuing to compete for the kicking job, and that competition is going to linger into the fall. And then we got some thoughts on the return game, which is kind of the main thing I wanted to hit on here with Pat Kirkland's press conference, because he said they felt like they put an emphasis in the offseason on setting some returns up for this year, which I think will be exciting to hear. Last year it seemed like we just, fair called every single kickoff. Maybe they're going to try and set up some returns this year. He said they got 4 or 5 guys that are really competing to be the return men, and some of them are names that we expected. Like if you would have asked me, I think somebody asked this actually in one of the live streams previously, who I thought would be candidates for the kick returner, and I think 2 of the main names that I brought up were DJ Epps being at the top of my list, and then maybe a guy like Matt Sieg. Both those guys are involved. The names that he mentioned being involved is in the return battle there. Andre Devine, which is exciting to hear as well. Another Devine potentially being a return man. We know Noel was super explosive on those kick returns. And then, of course, DJ Epps, Armani Weaver, and Matt Sieg. No surprise there. I think a lot of those were likely candidates. DJ Epps was kind of my favorite to win the job since he came over from Troy. That's something he really excelled at there, was in the return game, and he can do both kick and punts for you. So I'm definitely expecting him to be involved. But it sounds like those guys are competing for those return men jobs. So, between Andre Devine, DJ Epps, Armani Weaver, or Matt Sieg, I think West Virginia probably will be in good hands there at the return positions, as West Virginia worked on a good bit of special teams yesterday. One of the first times they've had a chance to work on it extensively was in Wednesday's practice, and got to hear from the special teams coach afterwards and get some notes on the return men. So that was nice, which leads us to Rich Rod's press conference, which he had as well after yesterday's practice, which he detailed was in shorts and kind of, that had to get one more practice in shorts before the spring game. And the spring festival, of course, is the final practice of the season. Technically, that counts as your 15th practice here throughout spring ball. But they're going to use the teams that they split up with earlier in the season. And I kind of wondered about that when he told us that they'd be doing that. They'd be, doing the draft at practice and splitting the teams up between a blue team and a white team, and then having a couple of scrimmages. I think it was like April 7th was the first one, and they did one more after that. And I kind of wondered if those would end up being the teams for the spring game. Sounds like that indeed will be the case. When they scrimmage, they're going to use those same teams that they drafted earlier throughout the spring practice portions. They said that the quarterbacks likely won't be live, especially, he said, Scotty Fox and Michael Hawkins are going to have on the black jerseys, which if you remember last year's spring game, those of you that attended probably remember all the quarterbacks were live except for kind of the top two. You didn't have Jalen Henderson and Nico Markiel at that time going live. They had the black jerseys on. This time you're going to get Scotty Fox and Michael Hawkins in the black jerseys. Also said Scotty Fox is dealing with a little minor hamstring issue currently, but he's still going to play some reps there in the spring festival. Hopefully he knows Scotty will want to, so he's going to try and give him some. So might not see a ton of Scotty Fox, but sounds like we'll see him at least a little bit on Saturday. Which Rich Rod said he expects Saturday to be a fun day, both for the team and, of course, for all the fans going there with all the different events. I saw the university actually put out just before I started the live stream, the first 2,000 people through the gate are getting a free t-shirt as well. You get a free concert after the game. A lot of fun stuff going on there. You got the gear sale before the game, Almost Heaven Village. So I think it'll be a fun day as well. I'd have to agree with Rich Rod on that one. And then he talked a little bit about the player meetings, which they're going to have again post-spring. Last year, they were a little bit more... I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. A little bit more impactful maybe, because you had that portal window post-spring and they knew they had to trim the roster down a little bit to be able to add guys. So those player meetings post-spring last year certainly were, unfortunately, some uncomfortable conversations telling some guys they may not have a roster spot and things like that. This year, the player meetings are more going to be based on, okay, they're still doing the thing where they give everybody their individual cut up of all their, drills and practice throughout the spring, all the reps and the scrimmages throughout the spring, and that way they can show them, hey, here's why we feel you're at this spot on the depth chart or whatever. So they're still going to have those individual video cut-ups, but now it's more going to be about let people know, hey, here's where you probably sit within your position group, within your depth chart of your position group right now. Here's the areas where you can improve and try and move yourself up that depth chart, once fall rolls around, which I think is good. I love that tactic and how they're so cut and dry with it with the players, to the point of they're not leaving any speculation as to, why am I in this spot? Because they're going to have the video to reference throughout, the player meetings to tell them, here's why you're where you are. Here's what you can do to improve. And I really like that. I'm glad that they're bringing that back again this year. And then Rich Rod said plenty of time for improvement, though, because in addition to, of course, you'll have 30-plus days of fall camp still yet before your first game, 42 days of skill development throughout the summer as well. So nice they're able to do that now. Used to be couldn't have a football throughout the summer and all of that. Now you kind of have essentially OTAs and all of that stuff throughout the summer. So that's always nice, and I think that helps, especially in today's day and age where you have to break in so many new players year to year, essentially. So he said that he's hoping on Saturday, they asked kind of what are you hoping to see. He said, minimal mental mistakes. He actually said none, but knows that probably won't happen. So minimal mental mistakes. Man, that's a tongue twister right there, isn't it? And a good level of competitiveness and the hard edge style on display on Saturday, which hopefully he gets all of that, and we all get to witness that as well. He said they could have a depth chart of 10 plus on the offensive line. We heard him talk, earlier in the spring saying their goal was to have at least 8, and I think he mentioned, he felt like they could have 10 or 11 that they feel pretty confident in on the offensive line. So put a check mark next to the box that said improve offensive line play, get better players on the offensive line. All of that I think has been met. And of course, you guys know I've raved about Rick Trickett a ton throughout the spring, and that's the biggest addition of the offseason in my opinion. And the fact that they feel like they're that deep on the offensive line bodes well for the upcoming season, bodes well for the competition that'll be ongoing at those positions. I think you still got jobs up for grabs on that offensive line leading into the fall even. So then he says that there will only be one end zone available on Saturday because the concert they're having after the game, the Jake Owen concert, the stage is going to be set up in one of the end zones. So everything's going to take place on kind of one side of the field. One team will have the ball on offense going that way, then they'll switch who has the ball, but still heading into the same end zone. So all the action going to be on one side of the field on Saturday. And then he was asked about some players that may be out for the game, and he said that they've actually, I should probably knock on wood after how last year went, but through the spring, really haven't dealt with too many injuries. It's pretty much just the guys that they were out, prior to the spring remain out. Guys like Ashton Woods, Emery Snyder, and Devin Vass were kind of some of the main names that he mentioned there that wouldn't be in action on Saturday. But that's what I had, guys. Wanted to hit some notes from spring practice as we lead into the spring game on Saturday. I told you guys, on social media this morning when I tweeted out that I wouldn't be doing WVU News Daily today, that I'd come back with a portal update because knew we had another entry, knew we had some more targets to talk about, and of course come back and hit on those press conferences from yesterday for another football practice update. So always enjoy talking about those things here with you guys. Hate to see that, spring practice is winding down, but we'll find plenty to talk about in future live streams leading up to fall camp. And of course, we'll still be able to talk basketball portal ongoing now. There's going to be plenty more transfers in to add to our list, more targets to remove and add, all of that good stuff as we'll continue to cover the basketball portal. But that's what I had for this one. Get some of your all's comments here before we wrap up the stream. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one. Whether you're watching live or on a playback, be sure you hit the thumbs up button before you head out. Be sure you subscribe to the channel to get these live stream notifications and be able to chat with me live in future ones if you're watching on a playback. And of course, to get the WVU News Daily videos, which come out on the channel every Monday through Friday as well, in addition to anything else that we may cover here as we try and keep you up to date with all your WVU sports news here on the Country Roads webcast. So with that being said, let me get to some comments here from the chat before we call it a show here. Oh, wow. Mountaineers headline with maybe the most shocking news of the day is that YouTube actually sent out the notification like they're supposed to. It's about I don't even want to say a 50-50 chance. I feel like it's more often than not they don't send the notification, or if they do send it, they send it late. But glad they were on time with it and accurate with it this time. Mountaineers headline, and you got to be here for the whole show. Drum Wolf in the house, and let's go Mountaineers. Let's go Mountaineers, Drum Wolf. It's not okay golf in the house. Good to see you as always, man. Joe Moynihan back in the house as well. Good to see you, Joe. He said, so of the different solutions to the transfer portal issue, one idea is giving each player 5 initial years with one opportunity in those 5 years to hit the portal. What's your take on this? That's exactly what I'm hoping for. I think Rich Rod had the comments earlier in the spring talking about it, that I think he said Tommy Tuberville was the one that had the idea. You give people 5 years to play 5. You can transfer once without having to sit out. Beyond that, you have to sit out. I think that that's a great solution to it. And I think that West Virginia needs something like that, so that that way we can get a guy that's young and still have a chance to keep him. Whether we land these transfers that have 4 years of eligibility remaining, like we have in football this year with guys like Teron Francis, Toby Hostrup, Jacob Bradford, etc. We have a great chance to keep those guys if they're using their one free transfer that early. We got a great chance to keep them throughout the rest of their career, and I think it gives you a better chance to perhaps keep a guy that maybe has a great year as a true freshman, like a DJ Thomas did this year. If he knows he can only transfer once, he may hold out and do that later in his career, or do it after his value is a little bit higher. So I think that would really be beneficial to West Virginia, because unfortunately throughout the portal era, the issue that we've seen is some guys trying to use West Virginia as a stepping stone school, so to speak. You get somebody in young, they have a really good year, they want to go then to the Big Ten, SEC, or something like that, or you get a guy in with multiple years of eligibility remaining, and you think, oh, we're going to have this guy for a while. He comes in for a year or two and then heads out again. So I think that it would be really be beneficial for those guys that we've talked about, that I think is a great strategy to try and get some of those guys that maybe go to those blue blood programs initially out of high school in football and they don't play. They're in their redshirt freshmen and they hit the portal. And so then you can get them into your program with 4 years of eligibility remaining. And if you got that 1 year transfer rule, you got a great chance of keeping those guys throughout their entire career. And you can have guys like Teron Francis and Jacob Bradford and Toby Hostrup and have them in your program for a while, which I think also the multi-year contracts that more teams are trying to do are going to help with that as well. West Virginia has some players on multi-year contracts this year in football. That's going to help with that also, for sure. That's the other one. That was the other one, Mountaineers headline. Yale-Tan was the one I needed to remove off the list. Let me go ahead and do that. The guy from Yale here. Let's pull back up our target list. Got to purge one more. I felt like there was somebody else I was missing. I couldn't remember who it was. Samson Elton there from Yale is off the list also, which, as bad as you hate to take guys off that you're targeting and not move them to the transfer in list, it also is kind of exciting because when you start to thin the list out a little bit, then you start to hone in on, okay, so these are the guys we're really focused on. This is the guys on the list that we need to keep an eye on. As the list narrows, you have, more options to potentially add to that transfer in list, essentially, because those are the guys you're honing in on, which is a good thing. And of course, more targets continue to be added seemingly every day. That's why we've been doing a live stream almost every day here on the channel since the portal season started, for sure. Let's see. Mountaineers headline said, bro wants a 2 deep at that rate, talking about the offensive line. And he says, I guess that makes sense considering Trickett is back. Exactly. I think that's the plus side of having Trickett back is he wants to have multiple guys ready to go in case he needs to yank somebody out of there. And of course, have players ready, in the knock on wood again, case of injury. You got guys that can play multiple spots and you got a lot of guys that you're comfortable with. Just another plus to having Trickett back for sure. Big Dan T in the house, channel member. Appreciate you, Big Dan T. He says like, share, and subscribe. Yes, guys, always appreciate that. Helps me out a ton here. This is part of my full-time job. Quick, easy, and free ways to help out is the thumbs up button. So be sure you subscribe to the channel, and then you can copy and paste the link out on your social media there. That way it reaches other Mountaineer fans, and we can continue to grow the channel here. And then, of course, if you're able, you can become a channel member like Big Dan T and some of the others there you see in chat with the custom WVU football helmet badges. That really helps out as well. Helps me out a ton here to pay the bills, keep the content coming. But then, of course, you help yourself to more WVU sports bonus content, which is more important in my opinion, especially once football season rolls around. You're going to want to be in there for the player grades, the snap count videos, the film reviews, the behind the scenes videos each week. A lot of fun stuff there for channel members, especially when football rolls around. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff there in general with, game watch parties, monthly member hangout streams and such, but that content for channel members is really prevalent for football season. As we're getting closer and closer, guys. I think 141 days. I've been putting it out on social media, which of course our X handles there on the bottom of the screen if you want to follow us there on X or Twitter. But every morning I'm doing the countdown down to game 141 days from today. So getting close there, getting close, guys. Devil Dog 44 says, let's go. Hey, let's go Mountaineers, Devil Dog. Good to see you as always. We need one more big and a swing forward to round it out. Yeah, I think we could use one more big, especially now since we lost Jackson Fields. If we had Jackson Fields returning, I think we maybe could settle for some of the guys that we have. We definitely probably need another big now. I think you're right on that. And I'd like to have another defensive guy in there. One guy that's been rumored is maybe Sincere Harris wanting to return to West Virginia. I didn't throw him on the target list yet because I haven't seen it, from a source that I could cite quite yet there on social media like I like to do when I add guys to the target list. But there are some rumblings that could be, something that could potentially happen. And, if it does, I wouldn't be mad at all. That's the one guy when Ross Hodge came in last year that I thought would be a good fit for his system anyways because he's, a defensive guy first. And I think you need some of those guys, out there on the wing. You need a 3-and-D guy or two here to round this thing out with the transfers thus far for sure. So I would agree on that. Hey, JR in the house. Let's go Mountaineers. Good to see you, JR, for sure. Really appreciate it. Joe Moynihan said, continue to do the great work you do. I've seen other podcasts. They don't live up. I'm from New Jersey, but I'll be at the opening game of the season against Coastal. It'll be great to meet you. I appreciate that, Joe. I don't know if I'll be up there for that one or not yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'll be up on the spring game on Saturday, and I'm going to try and get to a few games this season. Didn't get a chance to renew my season tickets for this year, which, I had them for a couple of years in a row. Didn't get to this year. That's okay. Hopefully still get up to a few games, but the silver lining that I've been saying here on the channel is for you channel members, we'll be doing a lot more game watch parties for the football games throughout the season. Try and get most of them in there throughout the season. But yeah, anytime I'm up there, Joe, I'd love to run into you and meet you there, man, for sure. That'd be awesome, man. Like I said, I'll be up there on Saturday. If any of you guys are there, see me, come say hi, all that stuff. Let's hang out at the Spring Festival and have a good time. I think it's going to be a party up there on Saturday. Going to be a lot of fun. So really excited about that, guys. Can't wait. Just a couple of days away from getting to see our first look at this team live and in person at that Spring Festival, which the one thing I've been saying all spring is more so than any year in recent memory, we'll get a more finalized look at the team this year too, because there's no portal window after the spring. The guys that we have here on the roster, we're going to keep. Yeah, we're going to add 12 or 13 more guys. I think it's 13 more that'll join over the summer, but none of these guys are going to be departing. They're going to be here come, fall. And that hadn't been the case in recent seasons, rather. You'd see some of these guys in the spring game and then they'd have to, or they'd hit the portal window after that, and some of these guys wouldn't be on the roster, and some of the guys that would be on your roster for the fall you wouldn't have until the summer. Not the case this year. These guys we're going to see in the spring are the guys we'll see in the fall as well. So that's kind of exciting as well. So really excited for that, man. Really excited for that. Appreciate all you guys that tuned in here live and chatted with me as we had another basketball portal update to get to and talk a little bit more WVU football spring practice, which, like I said, still a couple days till the spring game. We'll be back, chat some more, and definitely we'll chat again about the spring game. I'll probably try and do a live stream on my drive home from there or something like that. Definitely we'll chat about that more. So plenty more to talk about. I know football spring practice is winding down, but basketball portal season continues. And, of course, we're covering all WVU sports here on the channel with the WVU News Daily shows every Monday through Friday. So we'll keep the content coming here for you on the Country Roads webcast. You guys keep tuning in, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Chat with you guys here again in the near future. And until then, let's go Mountaineers.